And good evening and welcome from Spartanburg, South Carolina. John Phillips here. It is Pittsburgh Sports Tonight. Just because I'm working and on the road doesn't mean that I'm not going to log on at 7 p.m. 3 nights a week, and I'm going to make sure I at least give you an hour of honest sports talk from yours truly. And who knows, we probably touch on some other subjects as well, but nothing that's going to get us banned on the old YouTube. But I'm in my favorite hotel when I'm traveling for work. Hotel stays are mission critical for me, right? Like I stay in Marriott's primarily. Hello there, Adam. Haven't seen or heard from you in a while. What's up, my brother? Good to talk to you as well. When I'm traveling, it's so important that I stay in nice digs. And I'm not talking like, $300 a night, $350 a night. I'm not staying at the JW Marriott's. I like 4 points. And so, as I had mentioned to some of you prior, some of you know this, maybe many of you don't. If you're just jumping in on the live stream, good evening and welcome. I used to live in South Carolina. And so this is the upstate portion of the great state of South Carolina, where I called home for 4 years. I used to live in the Low Country down in the Charleston area, but I used to come up to this area quite a bit for work because it was teeming with just opportunity. And I put some people to work on this hotel 4 or 5 years ago when Marriott bought this property, this hotel that I'm staying in. They're all suites. And it was like a hotel owned by some local guy many, many years ago. And the place kind of went, he died and they stopped operating, and somebody bought it and they tried to renovate it. And it's a big property, hundreds of rooms. And Marriott bought it in 2021. In 2022, we put some electricians to work up here through our agency. And when I moved back to Pennsylvania and I started coming back down here to work, I'm like, I didn't see the finished product. And it's an amazing hotel. Amazing hotel, great property, great location. There's a ton of work down here. And so my favorite little spot, the 4 Points Sheraton here in Spartanburg, where the hotel rates are reasonable, unlike Greenville, where they want your arm and half your liver. What did I think of the Super Bowl? Adam, we will talk about that. I lost a lot of money on New England. I lost a whole bunch of money on the Patriots. Disgusting. 29, what was it? 29-12 or 29-13? 29-13 last night. The game. I was in Dayton, Ohio, actually, for the game. I put some people to work this morning in Dayton, Ohio, and then I promptly drove myself down here. 29-13 final score. It was a dominating performance, without a doubt. Seattle dominated play the entire time. They were in control of that football game from the get-go. And, look, New England, for what it's worth, I mean, they had a great season, 17 wins. They went on the road and won the AFC Championship game. And, the conditions were obviously terrible. But they were able to go on the road and win the AFC Championship game. Now, they weren't facing Bo Nix, but nonetheless, their schedule was fairly easy this year. It was fairly easy this year. That was one of the things that was talked about before the game was played, that, they benefited from a relatively easy schedule. It might have actually been, statistically speaking, the easiest schedule in the NFL this year, certainly one of the easier ones. And they won all the games they needed to. They had a very good defense. I don't think anybody's questioning their defense, but, Drake May last night had it handed to him. He did not have a particularly strong playoffs in terms of being protected. I will say that much. He was sacked 21 times this postseason, 21. Think about that number for a minute. He was sacked 6 times last night. He was sacked 5 times in their each playoff game that they had. He was sacked 5 times. And they played some pretty good defense. They played the Chargers. They played Houston. They played Denver. It was It was a good year for the Patriots, all things considered. I'm sure if we were as Steeler fans, you would probably take that, unfortunately. I won with Seattle outright and an anytime touchdown. Please send some money my way. Hopefully it was a lot of money. I didn't lose a fortune, but I lost enough to make your stomach turn a little bit. But, it is what it is. The Patriots' offensive line was not good. They were not good last night, but they were playing a great defense, right? They were playing a great defense. They were playing a team that also won 17 games this past year. And, look, they were just dominant from start to finish. I don't think it's that I'm breaking any news here. Right, as far as what the Seattle Seahawks were, they were impressive last night, and you got to give credit to that team. Kenneth Walker III played, and he played extremely well. He ran for over 130 yards. Zach Charbonneau was not playing, so they had to go with Kenny Walker, and he stepped up with a great performance. I don't know if he should have been the MVP. But you got to give it to somebody. I thought the kicker probably could have garnered some votes for that, but I guess not. I think it's Jake Myers. He had obviously a big game, five field goals. Their defense was just spectacular, and Sam Darnold didn't do anything to hurt them. That's really what it came down to, was that Darnold didn't hurt them. And when he had to be big 2 weeks ago in what some people are saying was the Super Bowl, the NFC Championship game against the Rams, he was better than the MVP. He was better than the MVP. And let's talk about Darnold for a minute. Okay, let's just talk about Sam Darnold. What a story this guy is. Okay. Think about this for a minute. He's only 28 years old, right? He's only 28 years old. And you're looking at a guy who has played for, I think, 5 teams now, right? He was a USC kid, right? Coming out of California. He gets drafted by the Jets, right? They take a pass on him. And then he just kind of bounces around, right? He kind of bounces around and just has this, really weird background, if you will, of just not being good enough for so many teams, right? He spent his first 3 years with the Jets, a couple years in Carolina, bounces over to San Francisco for a season, then for 1 year. And then he ends up in Seattle this year and he wins the Super Bowl. He wins the Super Bowl. And, again, first round pick, I think it was like top 2 or 3, actually, where he was selected by the Jets and just never looked comfortable. I don't know if anybody looks comfortable in a Jets uniform. I don't know, and he just kind of bounced around, right? And he really didn't play much in San Francisco. He barely played at all. Brock Purdy was their quarterback in 2023. Goes to Minnesota last year and has an incredible and pretty good year, right? All things considered, had a pretty good season last year. And but it wasn't good enough to stay there, and they decide to part ways with him. And he goes to Seattle and he wins the Super Bowl. It's the most incredible thing. And congratulations to him. For making all of that happen in what was obviously a great year for him. I bet the Vikings are feeling like idiots. I think, the Jets, the Vikings, right? Carolina, right? The one thing about franchises in the NFL, Adam, and I appreciate you chiming in here this evening with some questions and some commentary. One thing about the NFL, there are just certain franchises that can't get it right. They can't get it right. The Jets are one of them. The Browns are one of them, right? They struggle. Arizona, they've been to 1 Super Bowl, right? And that was 17 years ago, 18 years ago. There are just certain franchises that just don't get it right consistently. The Miami Dolphins have been that way for a long time, 20 plus years. They don't get it right for whatever reason. We got Bruce Harper checking in via our YouTube channel this evening. Do you feel the Patriots deserve to be in the Super Bowl? Yeah, of course. They earned their way there. They earned their way there. Number 2 seed, 2 home playoff games. They beat, decent teams. They beat a very good Houston Texans team at home. And then again, they caught a break in not having to face Bo Nix, right? And the weather in the second half of that game kind of turned, but both teams had to play in it. They absolutely deserved to be there, Bruce. You cannot falter. You can't take away the season that they had, right? Mike Vrabel just put together an absolute brilliant season for New England. And again, they didn't face a lot of heavy competition, right? They didn't face teams that were particularly good. They caught the Steelers early in the schedule, and Pittsburgh was able to go up there and win after coming off the loss to New England, at home to Seattle. They go up there and they hang an L on the Patriots, who then went on to win like 9 or 10 straight games, 11 games, or whatever the streak was. It was quite impressive. But, Mike Vrabel deserves a lot of credit. He was named the Coach of the Year. Well-deserved. I cannot complain. They were just not a good football team last year. Would they have 3 or 4 wins? Something like that. They were terrible last year. And he's able to come in there, and he absolutely was able to get what he got out of Drake May, and that defense was stellar. And they benefited from a weaker schedule, but they earned the right to be there to play Seattle. I do think if Bo Nix was healthy, and they would have won that, I think if Bo Nix was healthy, they probably beat New England, and that would have been a better matchup for sure. But we got the matchup that we did, and at the end of the day, the Seattle Seahawks are celebrating a Super Bowl championship, just the second sports championship, professional sports championship in Seattle's history. Can you name the first? I don't have a gift for you, but if you can name the first without looking, I will commend you for that. I feel you are right about that. They had so easy a schedule, and Bo Nix had the broken ankle, but they did win a lot of games. They absolutely did win a lot of games, and they did extremely well for themselves this year. Still, pretty good game. We'll talk about Bad Bunny in a few minutes. What do you think Mike Tomlin's going to do here in the future, says Adam? I don't know right now. He has gone quiet. He has been really quiet. Okay, and I'm not here to get into any of the the this, that, and the other. But he has been off. He has been completely off the radar, which is his choice. Yes, it is the Seattle SuperSonics. I believe the year was 1977 in the NBA. That is right, Bruce. It was the SuperSonics. Yes, the SuperSonics won a championship in 1977. I actually saw them play in their last year at Key Arena in 2008. I went to Seattle for work. This was at another company. I worked for a Fortune 500 as a public speaker for a decade, and I used to travel the country. And I went to Seattle, and they happened to be playing the Lakers, and Kobe Bryant was playing, and I always wanted to see Black Mamba. Like I got to see Jordan play twice. I got to see Bird play once. I got to see Julius Erving twice. I never saw Magic play, unfortunately. Although I did meet him one time in Buffalo, oddly enough, at a Bills game, which is a weird story. But I digress. Wanted to see Kobe play. And so I fly into Seattle. My friend picks me up. We go straight to Key Arena. And, of course, Bryant got ejected from the basketball game at the beginning of the third quarter. So I got to see him play 25 or 26 minutes. I forget what happened, but he got into it with the referee. Next thing you know, he got ejected. But that was the last year at Key Arena. That was pretty crazy. Sean Kemp, what's his comment? I had Sean Kemp show when he played. Yeah, Sean was pretty good. Sean, Gary Payton played up there as well for a while. It was a good trip for me personally. I enjoyed it. I'd never been to the Pacific Northwest. And, what little I got to see a Kobe play because he decides to get kicked out of a basketball game at Key Arena. But that was 2008. 2008, but just the second championship in Seattle's history. Of course, they had the World Series. They lost the World Series to the Dodgers this year. They should have won the World Series. They should have won the World Series. They could have had 2 championships this year. But a friend of mine does morning drive up there in Seattle on the All Sports station, Chuck Powell. I'm going to see if Chuck will come on tomorrow night while I'm here. I'm going to be down here in Greenville for a couple days. So the show will be emanating here from the palatial digs of my room tomorrow as well. Wednesday, I should be back home in Pittsburgh. And I think I've figured out my internet speed is just not up to par at home. I've got to get that tweaked when I come back. I think that's been my issue. I'm here and broadcasting from this hotel room, and everything is going pretty smooth. So I think I've now figured out why I'm having issues with lag. I just don't have fast enough internet. So I'm going to get that fixed. I'll be giving T-Mobile a visit on Wednesday sometime. Another question coming in. And by the way, if you're on X or YouTube or even on our Facebook page, you're welcome to leave comments. We get them right in here on the feed. I can take your questions or anything that you might want to say. Bruce says, do you feel Sam Darnold will get a big raise or try to quit the Seahawks to get more money? I'm sure that they will throw some money at him, right? You probably will want to work out an extension. If I'm the Seahawks, I want to keep as many of these guys intact. And that's one thing about the NFL. The cap that they have goes up 40, 50, 60 million every year. And if you can work the cap properly, right? And they're also drafting their own players, right? They have developed players from within that roster. That is definitely a key element to it, right? Especially if you're getting young guys that are in those first 4-year contracts, right? Where you've got friendly deals because of the way things are structured. If you're able to find young talent that is playing a big role with a mix of your free agents and guys that have been with you for a while, you want to run it back. And Seattle might be in a good position to do just that. Xfinity, I'm getting who's your internet provider? Xfinity is good, and AT&T. We have, I think, Xfinity upstairs, but I was having issues with it, so I grabbed some T-Mobile. I have a router and everything like right next to my desk in my game room where I do my shows in the evening time, but it didn't help anything. So I'm going to check into that when I get back up there on Wednesday. I'll be out of here early Wednesday and back in town, but I'm definitely pleased with the light bulb finally going off because I was having troubles the last few weeks at home doing the shows. They were just guests popping in and out. There was a lot of lag time that was just odd. And so now that I see where the issue is, we'll get that squared away pretty quickly, and that will help because I want to have guests on. I really didn't do many guests the last few weeks because I was having issues. But now that I've got that figured out, we should be in good shape. Okay. Employees texting me like crazy. We're busy down here in South Carolina. By the way, the other thing I will tell you is this. It was nice to hit 64-degree weather today and no snow. I started my morning in Dayton, Ohio. It was cold. I had an employee quit 30 minutes in, right? It's too cold. Well, you picked the wrong career, folks. And so, and as I worked my way south through Kentucky, and once I got into Tennessee, it was, the temperature was much different. And now it's going to be like 67 or 68 tomorrow. I'm excited. I told my wife, I said, I'm not coming back. I'm going to stay down here for a while. Hopefully the snow will melt back home. Let's talk a little bit about Bad Bunny and the halftime show. Look, a lot was said, obviously, beforehand. Jay-Z in 2019 took over production of the halftime show, and a lot of people have, complained about the halftime shows. And here you have this guy from Puerto Rico. Look, today's entertainers, no different from the entertainers from 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago, right? It's really the same demonic message that they push out in various ways. look, it was well choreographed, it was well staged. Didn't understand any of it. I didn't dislike it, but that's not my type of music. It's not my type of music, but I thought the performance overall visually was fine. I think the mixed reviews, the lyrics, obviously. Now, again, he was speaking in Spanish, but if you get the translated version, you'll be a little surprised as to what he was actually saying and talking about. I got a chance to take a peek at some of those lyrics today as I was. I made a couple stops today for gas, and then I stopped in our Knoxville office to say hi to some people, some coworkers, and just grabbed a quick peek of my phone for 2 minutes, and somebody had put out the lyrics, and it shouldn't shock you, right? That kind of stuff should not shock you. That he would be saying these sorts of things. Now, again, was it a celebration of Latino culture and Puerto Rico and where he's from? Sure. And, is it nice for people like that to see something? Absolutely. Absolutely it is. I don't discredit what that impact is for people, in Puerto Rico to see a native son on, a pretty big stage. It's a global stage. It's not the World Cup, but the Super Bowl is watched around the world. Right. The NFL has made it really clear that they want to expand their product in South America, that they want to expand their product in Europe. And so you're going to have big acts brought in. And, I don't stream anything. But he had was it 20 million downloads on some Spotify maybe last year. He's a very popular star. He's a very popular star, international star, and is obviously well liked by fans. Bruce has a comment about Bad Bunny. I feel Bad Bunny was bad, but I was happy all the MAGA people got so angry and hateful. People on both sides, and here's the thing, Bruce. I'm a lifelong Democrat, but I don't recognize my party anymore. Okay, and I am registered as a Republican, but I do not identify as a Republican by any stretch of the imagination. In fact, I'm going to make an effort to go independent here in the next few months. The only reason I register with a party is so that I can vote in the primaries. Okay. Of course, there were some people that were upset, and if you want to call them MAGA, that's fine, so be it. But the ideological side of things anymore is not the right path. It's not the right path, if I can just say that. I don't want to get too political here. Believe me, I like to talk politics. When I left talk radio in 2016, I wanted to get into when I left sports radio in 2016, I wanted to go down the politics path, and it didn't work out. The construction thing has been good for me. I've been pretty happy, and I'm glad that I'm doing this show. I'm doing this 3 nights a week now for an hour, mostly out of vanity, but I will build this out. I'm excited for April. I'm excited for the NFL draft. I've started talking to a couple locations in downtown Pittsburgh. I hope that we will be on the air for 3 or 4 nights downtown when the draft happens. I'm trying to make that happen. Okay. I want to see us expand our programming in 2026. And I know that has a lot to do with me and my shoulders. I got a lot on my plate. I'm probably going to be going to Utah for 3 or 4 months starting in April, and I might just be out there for 3 or 4 months. I've got a massive project that's going to absolutely change the course of my company. I had some good conversations again today with one of my clients that's a very big contractor, and I want to be able to have the time to do this, and I want to do it right. So, commitment to something like this, especially at this stage in my life, is a little different. I want to do more, but I don't want to bite off more at 56. I just put 500 miles on my car today, and I'll probably do that again on Wednesday to get home. That's a lot. I'm not as young as I once was. I feel like I could conquer the world when I started doing this 13 years ago. I was still in my early 40s. And, I felt relatively good about, myself in general. I'm 13 years into this career, and it's important to me. And I have a position with my company that's important. They rely on me to be a road warrior and an animal, which is what I am. And I'm trying to take my company from 30 million to 150 million this year, and I think I can do it. I think I have the project to do it. So, but if I do go to Utah for 3 or 4 months and I don't come back to Pittsburgh anytime soon because I have to be out there for this commitment, I still want to be able to do the content, and the timing of everything may not work out where that, it's important that we have a presence downtown at the draft, but my job comes first. So we're working on some things. We're trying to figure all this out as things play out. But in the meantime, I get to spend a little bit of time with you guys every single night, which is nice, and I enjoy it immensely. Let's move away from the political talk of Bad Bunny, and let's get back into a little sports with Bruce, who says, who do you feel will be the quarterback for the Steelers? Well, I saw a report. It was either yesterday or today where it looks like Aaron Rodgers and Mike McCarthy have been talking. As I said, Rodgers was going to need some time. He was probably going to take the first month off of just decompressing from the season. I said, give him 30 days and let's see, obviously what happened with Mike Tomlin. And now that Mike McCarthy is here and he's now 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks into his reign, I guess, as head coach. They have apparently spoken, and I think they want to get this wrapped up probably by March. I feel like they'll have some more conversations through the month of February, and hopefully by the end of this month, Bruce, I think by the end of this month, I think that they'll have a decision from him for sure. That's for certain. You asked about Bad Bunny, but I feel you are right, as so many people hate him so much. Yeah, you brought it up. I brought it up, and you want to comment on that? That's fine. I think I think we're in a weird place in this world. We are not in the world that I grew up in the 70s and 80s. I can tell you that right now. And social media has been a problem. Social media has been a problem. It has not. There are some good things to social media, but there are also some bad things. Adam, what do you think of Kenny Gainwell? It's so funny you mentioned that, Adam. We are now in the offseason officially. Let's talk about unrestricted free agents. That's a good question to ask. I was going to bring it up. Thank you so much for that. Let's talk about unrestricted free agents to begin with. You've got Calvin Austin III at wide receiver, Chuck Clark, Kyle Duggar, right? You've got Kenny Gainwell. You have Connor Haywood. I'm trying to find names that Jabril Peppers is another one. Aaron, of course, Rodgers on the 1-year deal. Asante Samuel Jr. Adam Thielen has retired. Marquez Valdez-Scantling. And then there's some other names. Isaac Seumalo is one of them. They do have 4 restricted free agents, by the way. Nobody of real note. I would tell you right now, in priority, it's Gainwell, and for me, it's Gainwell, and everybody else is second. And that includes Rodgers. I wouldn't even put Rodgers second, and I'll tell you why. Because he's either going to come back and play here, or he's probably going to retire. I cannot see him going to Minnesota. There has been some talk about him possibly going to Minnesota. You're an Eagles fan, but I respect the Steelers. Well, that's very nice of you. I have only been to one game in Philadelphia, one football game, and I'll never go back. That was a long time ago. I will never go back to another sporting event in Philadelphia ever again. I thought I was going to die that day. I really did. I think it was 96 or 97. The Steelers played out there I can't remember which year it was now. I went out there one year for a Steelers game, an Eagles game. It was a big mistake. It was a Big mistake. Big mistake on my friends out there. They were like, "Oh yeah, you'll be fine with us." No, I was not fine. I thought was pretty certain I was going to die most of the afternoon that I was there. It didn't matter that you were drinking with people and having a good time. Philadelphia fans are a rare breed. I don't know if they're worse than Boston fans, however. Boston fans are pretty bad. And I've been to games in Madison Square Garden. I've seen the Penguins play up there years and years ago, up in the 600s with the blue shirts. Those are some pretty rough fans too. But and I've been to plenty of games outside of Pittsburgh when I've traveled, baseball, hockey, what have you. And I've been to a few events where Philadelphia fans are on the road, and they're just a different breed of human being. Just a different breed of human being. But Adam, to answer your question about Kenny Gainwell, he is the priority right now as far as unrestricted free agents are concerned. I don't know if they can get him for $6-7 million a year. I don't know. I think somebody would probably overpay him a little bit. I don't think he's an RB1 per se, but he is a damn good player. And he was spectacular for us this year, both out of the backfield and chipping in, running the football. I mean, he was well worth whatever money they gave him on a one-year deal. He was an absolute steal. I think it's probably going to take $7 or $8 million to capture him as a, and you want to get a 3-year deal if you can, right? You want to try to get a 3-year deal at probably $7 million a year. Maybe a little less. I don't know where that money is going to fall, but if somebody comes in that has a little more cap space and feels like they have a little bit more of a need, they might be willing to throw a little bit more money at a guy like that. They might be willing to throw a little bit more money at a guy like that if he fits a piece that somebody needs. And the Steelers desperately need him. He made that offense better. He made that offense much better. No question about it. No question about it. I wanted to play some of my interview with Corey Graves. Last week, I had an opportunity to put a story together for the Pittsburgh Tribune Review. As some of you know, I do dabble as a writer over there. Well, Corey Graves of WWE fame is from Monroeville. He went to Gateway High School. And Corey, of course, is the color commentator on Monday Night Raw. You can also hear him on SmackDown and other select WWE events. He's been doing the color commentary for over a decade now. And Corey is now teaching a communications class at Point Park University. And I had a chance to sit down with him at length and spend time with him. I got a chance to talk to him about this new venture that he's involved in. Since TKO purchased WWE, they've been more willing to allow their talent to do other things outside of the wrestling world. Whereas when Vince McMahon owned the company, you didn't get to do a lot of things outside of wrestling. Your life was wrestling or you didn't work there. And I wanted to share a few minutes of my interview with Corey here on the show this evening. I thought that would, I probably did it. Like I said, I spent an hour with him, but I only recorded about 17 minutes of the actual conversation because a lot of it was personal stuff. And I didn't feel like that was something that I would want to record. There was a little behind the scene curtain peek at a TV angle he was involved in. His wife, Leah Van Dale, gave birth to their second child a few months ago. And so Corey is fantastic. And it was nice to reconnect with him because 16 years ago, next month, he and I auditioned together at 93.7 The Fan. He and I did a 4-hour show together. It was our audition show. And, he was there as Matt Polinsky, which is his real name. And Matt and I did a 4-hour show together. I actually found an audition. I found that audition tape recently, and I gave it to him as a gift. It's been nice to reconnect with Corey. Every once in a while, I'll get a text from him and say, "Hey, you want to go hang out for a little while? I would love to chat." And we just catch, we shoot the breeze with one another. Well, anyhow, I went down a few weeks ago to Point Park, and I caught him in the act of teaching and took some photos. And I spoke to the department chair, the head of the department, and put a nice article together for the Trib, and it got great traction across the wrestling scene. So I thought I would take a few minutes and give you some of that behind the scenes stuff that I did with Corey Graves earlier on this new venture he's doing as a teacher at Point Park University. All right. Well, it looks like the sound is not working. Not sure why, but these are the way. All right. Well, it looks like the sound is not. Sorry working. About that, not folks. Sure why, and, still trying to learn. Worked last week when I used it. Not this week. I don't know. We'll try to bring it to you tomorrow. Perhaps if I don't have some guests, I'm going to try to have some guests tomorrow while I'm down here in the upstate of South Carolina. Anyhow, that was the question was Steeler free agents earlier, and we addressed that. Sorry about the Corey Graves stuff. I really want to play some of that for you. It is on our YouTube channel if you want to go check that out. And Corey's tremendous. I'm just again, like I had said, very happy that I was able to reconnect with him, and that he gave me that story. It's a neat story, for him. And Corey's is, I think a lot of people, the misconception, I guess, with professional wrestling, and still to this day, and it baffles me, is that people think these guys are just all meatheads. And they don't have any brains, and they just knuckle draggers walking around, and that they don't have this cerebral nature to them, and a lot of them do. A lot of them do. John Bradshaw Layfield, he was like a big stock guy, right? Obviously, Mick Foley's, he's written how many books? Bret Hart was a painter, right? These guys have different side to them. And I thought it was interesting that Corey chose this type of assignment, if you will. The university actually approached him, and he was, I loved watching him. He has that it factor, right? Which is why he does big time television. Right. He's worked, his work has been on Fox Network. It's been on USA Network. It's been on Netflix. It's been on Peacock. We're not talking about small broadcasting entities here. And so when Point Park approached him about this last year, he kind of fluffed the idea off. He was like, "This is dumb." And George the Animal Steele was a professor. He absolutely was, Adam. I got to meet him in 2008 in Oil City at a wrestling event. It was like 1,300 people there. It was the night of the regional final between Pitt and Villanova, the one that Villanova won at the buzzer. I was backstage at that event. I knew the promoter, and he invited me up with my son. It was right around his birthday. And I spent the last 20 minutes of that basketball game, like I watched the last 10 minutes in the backstage near the gorilla position that they had with George the Animal Steele. And cerebral guy, great conversation with him. Great conversation with him. I loved that the fact that I got that time with that individual was pretty amazing. And he was spectacular to talk to. He really was. Hello, Mickey, checking in. Mickey Delaney via our YouTube channel. Thanks for checking us out. And smart guy. And Corey listened and bought in, and they figured out a schedule, and they figured out what the class was going to be, live sports production. And I spent about 45 minutes in the classroom with him. 12 kids signed up for it, and he's off and running. He's off and running. And I know that that's something that is important to him. It was important to him, and I was excited to be able to write that. I am not taking on assignments. I take on the assignments that I want to take on as a feature writer for the Trib. Every once in a while, they'll call me with something, but I've got some stuff in the works here in the next few weeks. I'm going to highlight another YouTuber from Monroeville. He actually went to Gateway High School and also worked for WWE. This local guy who I also worked with at the Fan for a brief period of time. He has like 4 million followers on all of his social media sites. So I'm putting that feature together, and I've got some other things in the hopper that I'm working on for the Trib. And of course, I'm going to come back in March and cover the Riverhounds for my second season on the Riverhounds beat, which is exciting. I'm actually going to come back down here to South Carolina on March 7th. The season opener is in Charleston, where I used to live, and I'm going to cover that game for the newspaper. And the season's about to start. They're actually in their third week of preseason. They'll have a game Thursday at Allegheny Health Network Montour as they prepare for the start of the regular season. Their first 3 regular season games will be on the road. They will have a U.S. Open Cup match at home, although they will not be the home team. They're going to play Steel City FC, which plays in a lower division of soccer, but they're going to get them in the first round. And Steel City and the Riverhounds have worked out a deal where they're going to use Highmark Stadium for the game because they can sell more tickets. And the venue is obviously a little step up from what they were using. I think they were using Rooney Field at Duquesne. But so I'll be back on the Riverhounds beat for my second year. Excited to be able to cover them as well. And again, just jumping back into the sports community of Pittsburgh has been good for me. I'm happy to be doing this. The audiences are small, but I don't care. The fact that 18 of you are hanging out tonight makes me smile. It really does. We're going to grow this. I'm going to put the time and effort into continuing to do this, and hopefully more people will show up. And I'm going to book some guests and have more guests, and we'll get this thing moving along quite nicely. Do you go to Steeler games and cover them? I used to cover them years and years ago. I worked on the Steelers flagship back in the late 90s. I worked on Ardmore Boulevard with Myron Cope and Bill Hillgrove and Ed Bouchette. And, Jerry Dulac did a show over there. I worked there with Mark Madden. I lost my job. Mark took over. He's been on an amazing run. I actually did 3 stints on Ardmore Boulevard. I did 3 stints on Ardmore Boulevard. I used to work with Jim Colony as well. And, Eartha Jackson, you name it, Doug Hirth. I worked with all those people. Over there. I have not covered the Steelers in a while. I mean, it's been nice to do. It was nice to do the pregame and postgame show that we did. I think we're going to change the format up a little bit this year. I might actually stream live during the games. We might do a shorter pregame show and stream live during the games. I think, once we get to a certain point, we can do that. And again, that's why the draft is so important for us, as we're developing content and programming. To be down there is going to be critical exposure for us. And I want to see a big jump this year. But I know that we have to provide good content and programming. That's why I paid to have people like Paul Zeiss, John Fedko, right? We had Todd Haley. We had an NFL head coach on our pregame show this year. Todd was fantastic. Jerry DePaula, Mike Ostie, right? Zig Fracassi. We had a weekly NFL insider, a guy who's worked for SiriusXM's NFL radio for 22 seasons now. And of course, it doesn't hurt to know people. I used to work with Zig Fracassi many, many years ago in radio in Las Vegas. So I know that on the streaming side of things, there are a lot of options out there, right? We had Urinating Tree on our pregame show for the playoff game. He came on for 15, 20 minutes. I even brought him on with Fedco. That was amazing. Like, Tree's got almost 700,000 subscribers to his YouTube channel. Another guy that I worked with, although we did not know each other, I did not know this until I interviewed him. He was a producer at Y108 in 2012 for like 3 or 4 years when I was over at the Fan between 2010 and 2016. Guy's got 700,000 people following him. We had some good content this year, and I thought we had a great lineup of people. But I want to change some things up next year, and I want to focus maybe more on actually streaming during the game, a shorter pregame show, maybe an hour or two, and then 1 hour of postgame. I want to make sure that the content is right, and that people are going to make sure that they don't just sample but hang out. I'm not doing this for money. Right. I know that could be down the road with, monetization if you build yourself a nice audience. This is more, like I had said, and I've said this a number of times, it's more of a vanity project for me, something I should have done when I was told 2 years ago. But I'm doing it now, and I'm enjoying it immensely. And it's nice to hang out with you people. Whoever shows up when they show up, I'm going to sit here and I'm going to talk for an hour and maybe take some questions from you. If anybody's on X and wants to say hello or has something to say, you can just go right into the box, put your question or comment in there, and it'll feed it over to me. We'll be here for just a few more minutes, and we'll wrap this one up. And we'll have tomorrow night's show at 7:00. I'm working on a guy who is a professional gambler. His name is Ref That Bets. We're going to try to get him on tomorrow. Also working on some neat stuff. Penguin Jesus is going to come on the show at some point in time. I don't know if you follow, if you're on X or not. I know a bunch of you are on X right now watching this, but if you are a Pittsburgher and you're a sports fan, you probably know Penguin Jesus. I'm going to get him on the show at some point in time, maybe even tomorrow or Wednesday perhaps, and just try to provide an entertaining hour away from the craziness that is the world that we live in. Adam says he wants to go to a Steelers game next year. 5 or 6 hours away. That's not too bad. That's an easy trip. You go to a night game. You leave early in the morning time. You get out here midday. Get yourself a little parking spot. I always suggest, Adam, never to park downtown if you can get away with it. I've always said, if you can get a bus into the city, like especially for the 1 o'clock games, you find one of the P stations on the outskirts of Pittsburgh. You're probably coming from the east. I would say park at the P1 in Rankin. You take the P1 into the city. You walk a block down to the T. The T is free. Takes you right over to the stadium. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. And that's it. You don't have to worry about traffic or anything like that. Parking in the South Hills is good. Taking the T in, taking the taking one of the boats over. That was always a winning formula when I was going to games years and years ago. I used to take my son Spencer when he was a little teeny tiny kid. He's 25 now, here real soon. We used to go and we'd park at Station Square. He loved taking the boat over. I enjoyed it. You know, I was at that famous game where Brian Urlacher got run over by Jerome Bettis when he was running for that touchdown late in the game. Well, that was a game. We didn't actually stay for it because it was a snowstorm, as you may remember. And my kid was like, he was like 4, like 3 or 4. He wasn't digging it too much in the second half, so we got out of there a little early. But I don't go to games anymore. Not really. I mean, you know, I haven't been to a Steeler game. I'm trying to think of the last Steeler game I was at. I think the last Steeler game I was at was actually in Cincinnati. I covered it for the Fan in 2010. I actually went down. I was working in Cincinnati at my day job for that Fortune 500, and I happened to be able to I got a credential, and I was at that game for the station getting sound. And that was the last time I was at a Steelers game. I can't even remember the last home game I was at. It's been a while. It's been a while. I tell you, I have no desire. I have no desire. I went to a few baseball games last year. I went to go see Paul Skeens. No interest in going to support I did see a note today. I did want to bring this up about the Pirates. I did see a note today where their payroll is going to hit $100 million this year. First time ever. First time ever. So they have been spending a little bit more money in this offseason. I don't want to call it progress, right? When you figure the average team, I think in Major League Baseball, the average payroll sits at around $190 million. So it's in progress in the sense that, okay, they are going out and signing a few more players, and they are spending a little bit more money. But the days of them trying to compete for somebody making $50 million a year, 45, whatever the astronomical yearly numbers are, that's not going to happen ever. It's not going to happen. So they'll have to piecemeal it together, and to catch lightning in a bottle, I don't know. Right, that run they had between 2012 and 15 was just it was lightning in a bottle. The fact that AJ Burnett had that much left in his tank, and keep in mind when they got him from the Yankees, they were paying a portion of his salary, paying a decent portion of it. So the Pirates got a deal there, and they got a highly motivated pitcher who wanted to show that he had something left still. And, it didn't hurt that they had Cole, coming in on the rookie deal. And obviously, they had a pretty good team, Russell Martin and obviously Kutch at the beginning of his career, was just solid. So they caught lightning in a bottle in that little run. And that's how it's going to happen. But they have not drafted well. They have not developed anybody. That has hurt the Pirates too, I would say. And if you're drafting players, and you're not developing them, it's a disaster. It's an absolute disaster for a franchise like the Pirates, right? You have to be able to take the talent that you're getting in the draft, and you have to be able to develop it. That's the only way. It's the only way they're going to compete. They get young players that they can actually develop and can perform. You add a few veterans in the mix, and now you've got a chance. They need production. They need run production. That's what they need. They did not have enough run production, especially for Skeens last year, right? I mean, statistically, what a season, right? He won the Cy Young, and for good reason. But in the games that he pitched, especially in the first half of the year, they were giving him no run support, like none. And that was just a general theme for the Pirates last year. It was just that they just didn't score enough runs. They can't get guys on base. You have to get guys on base in baseball. That's how you convert base runners into scoring, right? It's a pretty simple formula. get on base, move a player over, get him home. They don't do that very well. They have not done that well for almost a decade now. All right, I think that's about my time for the evening. I want to thank everybody for participating in the show this evening. I am back here again tomorrow. Back here again tomorrow at 7 o'clock. We'll have some guests. I'll try to figure out the sound issue. I don't know what happened with the sound that I got, but we'll try to do the Corey Graves interview maybe on Wednesday. We'll see. I'm going to try to have at least one guest, if not two, tomorrow for the show. Back in here in my hotel room in Spartanburg, South Carolina. I appreciate everybody checking in this evening. You stay safe out there wherever you might be. My name is John Phillips. We do this 3 nights a week at 7 o'clock. This has been Pittsburgh Sports Tonight here on the It's a Wrap Sports Network.